Imagine a world where a mother living in a suburb is concerned about what her child is learning at school. This mom may be watching Fox News or be in a parental rights group on Facebook. While browsing the internet, she comes across an organization claiming to protect children against perversion. So she joins the group to save her child. This cycle repeats across America, and together they become Moms for Liberty. As of July 2023, Moms for Liberty had 285 chapters in 45 states. Last school year, PEN America recorded 3,362 instances of books banned, primarily based on racial inequalities and LGBTQ+ themes. But classics like The Great Gatsby and Moby were also targeted. That's what Penguin Random House writes on its website. The publisher is now fighting against the many book bans driven by new laws and regulations, limiting the kind of books children, teenagers, and the public can access. This is not a cartoon. It's all happening in real life. So in this video, we'll talk about the movement to ban books in America. We'll see how they're organized and the threat they pose. We're going to discuss the history behind banning books. We'll see how crusaders against books are rarely on the good side of history. We'll also see how conservative movements use children to justify their ideology, and often do so as a way to ostracize minorities. And finally, we're going to talk about the people who fight back against book banning in America. Make sure to give us a like to help others find this video. You can also help me reach 10,000 subscribers. Your comments mean the world to me, and I hope you like this video. Previously on my channel, we explored 3 books subjected to bans in America: Genderqueer, Flamer, and Mouse. And we explored specific instances of their prohibition. In the Genderqueer video, we saw how this book was challenged in a Michigan public library by the county prosecutor despite the book being kept in the adult section. In the Flamer video, we saw how this book was challenged by the Secretary of Public Education in Oklahoma's public libraries, citing disturbing contexts. And in the Mouse video, we saw how this book was challenged by a Tennessee school board, citing profanity, nudity, and depiction of violence. These 3 examples have one thing in common. They were challenged and banned by elected officials, but pressure comes from below. Parents and organized groups play a key role. So don't be fooled. Moms for Liberty is a misleading name. They oppose the basic definition of liberty. The Oxford Dictionary defines liberty as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. These moms oppose liberty by lobbying local authorities to impose oppressive book restrictions. They campaign to ban books addressing gender, sexuality, and topics surrounding race from school and public libraries, or anything they deem inappropriate for children. A book can be challenged at the local level. For instance, a parent or a group like Moms for Liberty could challenge a book at their children's school board meeting. The book would then be reviewed by the board, and a vote would be held. This is how Mouse was banned in Tennessee. A higher level of government could also ban a book. A state could ratify a law to limit access to certain topics in schools. For instance, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill in Florida has in effect restricted access to some literature across the state. Moms for Liberty is behind many bans at the local level, and they're super aggressive with their methods. For instance, in North Carolina, Moms for Liberty filed a criminal complaint against the Wake County public school system over Lawn Boy, Genderqueer, and George, all LGBTQ+ books. A Florida Moms for Liberty activist went as far as advocating for separating LGBTQ+ students into, quote, specialized classes, quote, like, for example, children with autism, Down syndrome. Moms for Liberty also partake in anti-LGBTQ+ protests branded as, quote, protect the children events, some joined by the Proud Boys like this one in December 2022 in Florida. Moms for Liberty does not only target LGBTQ+ themes, anything related to race is a no-go with them. In 2023, the Miami-Dade chapter of Moms for Liberty claimed credit for the removal of The Hill We Climb from a school library. The book was an adaptation of the poem of the same name by Amanda Gorman. The activist who complained also had links to the Proud Boys. In Tennessee, Moms for Liberty challenged texts featuring Martin Luther King Jr., Ruby Bridges, civil rights movement protests, and school segregation. Last summer, a chapter of Moms for Liberty in Indiana printed a quote from Adolf Hitler on the top of the front page of their monthly newsletter. A few days later, at a conference, Tiffany Justice, the co-founder of Moms for Liberty, told the audience,
"One of our moms in a newsletter quotes Hitler. Woo! I stand with that mom."
The Southern Poverty Law Center even classified them as an extremist group. Quote, "Moms for Liberty is a far-right organization that engages in anti-student inclusion activities and self-identifies as part of the modern parental rights movement that emerged out of opposition to public health regulations for COVID-19, opposes LGBTQ+ and racially inclusive school curriculum, and has advocated for book bans." The Southern Poverty Law Center also confirms that Moms for Liberty has ties to the far-right neo-fascist group, the Proud Boys, and with the anti-LGBTQ+ group, Gays Against Groomers. We cannot cover Moms for Liberty without acknowledging the teachers, librarians, and public school officials who find themselves on the other end of their crusade. By challenging books or school curriculum, Moms for Liberty often engage in harassment and threats. For instance, a member of a school board in Florida, Miss Jenkins, was harassed by members of Moms for Liberty. One of the members even filed a false child abuse report against her with Child and Family Services. In New Hampshire, Moms for Liberty offered a bounty to members of the public who caught teachers introducing lessons in violation of the state's new law restricting discussions of race in school. They tweeted, quote, "We've got $500 for the person that first successfully catches a public school teacher breaking this law." In Florida, Mr. Levin, a gay man who became superintendent of the Florida Union Free School District, says he received homophobic harassment from Moms for Liberty members. He resigned his position a few months later. In 2022, a police investigation was opened in Arkansas after a recording of a Moms for Liberty leader surfaced in which she fantasized about shooting school librarians.
No, and I kept saying, what's the policy on how they're allowed? Are you trying to challenge this? No, I don't want to kick any books out of the library. I just want to know the policy. Here's the policy. And I said, yes, it says age appropriate. Are you trying to challenge it? Like there was no conversation and they were rude and they pushed back hard and that policy needs to be changed. Like I should not feel like I am under a microscope because I'm asking someone who is getting paid $85,000 a year, that librarian is, and still won't answer my questions. I'm telling you, I was any mental issues, they would all be plowed down with a freaking gun by now because I have had, that's the kind I'm a patient person and I'm like, ugh, how many times?
You be a conservative Republican and have one moment of weakness where you flip.
Moms for Liberty praise Republican politicians all the time. They praised Ron DeSantis for his efforts to restrict school curriculums in Florida, and in return, the governor spoke at their national gathering in 2022. Christian Ziegler, a prominent Republican politician in Florida, credited Moms for Liberty for bringing new voters, namely 20 to 30-year-old women, into the Republican Party. Moms for Liberty is organized as a tax-exempt organization. Therefore, they're not required to disclose their donors. The group claims to be funded by membership fees and profit from merch they sell. But opponents point out their close ties to the Republican Party and suggest they may also receive funding from partisan sources. One of their founding members is the subject of a sex scandal involving a threesome with another woman. Allegations of R-word and sexual assault were made by the third woman against her husband, Christian Ziegler. Yup, the prominent Republican politician we discussed a minute ago is married to one of the founders of Moms for Liberty. Their fight against freedom is intertwined with other discriminatory ideologies against minority groups. You could even say that history is repeating itself. Fearing books is an old idea, so I thought in this video that it would be interesting to look at some instances of book burning throughout history. I want to focus on the dark history of book burning, in part because book burning are highly symbolic of oppressive ideologies. We'll see how the Nazis burnt many books during World War II, but this era is not over yet, because books continue to burn in the 21st century, even in America. First, we have historical accounts of this practice dating back to the antiquity. For instance, around 490 to 420 BC, a Greek philosopher named Protagoras wrote about agnosticism, quote, "Concerning the gods, I have no means of knowing whether they exist or not." His work angered the people of Athens, who expelled him from the city. Local authorities ordered all copies of his book to be collected and burnt in the marketplace. This practice continued into the Middle Ages. For instance, the Library of Nalanda in eastern India was renowned for its manuscripts on Hindu and Buddhist knowledge. In 1193, Muslim invaders set it aflame, burning hundreds of thousands of volumes. Books continued burning in the early modern era. For example, on December 10, 1520, in a public square in Wittenberg, Germany, a public burning of books was held at the instruction of reformer Martin Luther. His followers burned a number of books and documents they deemed symbolic of Catholic orthodoxy. This included the excommunication order issued against Martin Luther, the Code of Canon Law, the Summa Theologica of St. Thomas, and more. Later, in the early modern period, in France, multiple books by Voltaire were burnt during the pre-revolution era. During the Industrial Revolution, more books were burned. For instance, in 1842, a school for the blind in Paris was ordered by its new director to burn books written in the newly invented Braille code. Before World War II in 1939, Franco's troops burned the entire library of Pompeu Fabra, the main author of the normative of the contemporary Catalan language. During World War II, the work of some Jewish authors was burnt by the Nazis. There are multiple instances of book burning in Nazi Germany during the 30s and the 40s. During the Cold War era, many instances of book burning exist. One instance that stood out to me happened in 1966 in the Bible Belt. Evangelists, disc jockeys, and the Ku Klux Klan implored their followers to host burning events and burn Beatle records, books, magazines, posters, and memorabilia. All because John Lennon said in an interview, quote, "The Beatles are more popular than Jesus." Some instances of book burning in America during this period actually happened at school, at the order of school boards, which circles back to today's topic. For instance, on November 8, 1973 in Drake, North Dakota, school personnel at Drake's elementary and high school burned copies of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, citing profanity. Believe it or not, books continue to burn in the 21st century. One of the most famous examples is the push to burn Harry Potter books, incited by church leaders in New Mexico and South Carolina in 2006. And as recently as 2022, a Tennessee pastor burned Twilight and Harry Potter books, and it was all live-streamed on the internet. They were either burned or censored in the name of politics, religion, or morality. Most banned books also fall into these three categories. Take Uncle Tom's Cabin. It is widely considered one of the first books to be the subject of a ban in America. Many southern states banned the book because it was said to promote abolition. You could say that politics motivated the banning of this text. Other books like Charles Darwin's Origin of Species have been banned multiple times worldwide. For instance, it was banned from the library of Trinity College, Cambridge, where Darwin himself studied. In 1924 and until 1967, Tennessee banned the teaching of the theory of evolution in its schools. You could say that religion motivated the banning of this text and its teaching. This statewide ban on teaching the theory of evolution is reminiscent of Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay bill. In theory, Origin of Species was not banned in Tennessee, but in effect, a ban on its teachings also constitutes a ban on the book. And finally, as previously covered on my channel, many LGBTQ+ books such as Genderqueer or Flamer were banned by people who argued that queer stories are immoral. Of course, all these instances of book bannings and burnings in the name of politics, religion, and morality raise one question. Whose politics, religion, or morality gets to decide which books should or should not be banned? Groups like Moms for Liberty are convinced that their own morality should dictate everyone else's access to books, and much like their predecessors who burned books in the streets and banned books in schools, these moms will one day be remembered as political extremists who chose the wrong side of history under the false pretext to, quote, save the children. This idea that children are being indoctrinated by LGBTQ+ books is the successor of another concept popular with right-wing opinion makers of the early 2000s. Back then, they would call it the mainstreaming of homosexuality in America. 2 months after the release of Brokeback Mountain, you could read this in the Los Angeles Times. Brokeback Mountain has drawn hoots of derision on Fox News from Bill O'Reilly, who said the film has earned rave reviews because the media, quote, wants to mainstream homosexual conduct. Here's what Bill O'Reilly had to say at the time.
So, probably not going to go see it, but you're going to see over the next month this movie being pushed and pushed and pushed by every media you can imagine. Why? Because they want to mainstream homosexual conduct. That's the goal.
It is interesting to see how the right at the time portrayed Brokeback Mountain as, quote, mainstreaming of homosexual conducts. Today, they're saying the same thing to justify the banning of queer books. We covered this in the previous video.
Battles have erupted at schools, school boards, and library meetings across the country as parents, lawmakers, and advocacy groups are debating the value and merit of many books.
In its report, the American Library Association documented more than 1,200 challenges to library books and resources last year. That's nearly twice as many as 2021, about 3 times the pre-pandemic average, and the highest since the ALA started collecting data 20 years ago. It also lists the 13 books that have been most challenged this past year, including the top 3, Genderqueer, a memoir by Maya Kobev, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson, and Nobel Prize-winning author Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye.
The movie even sparked debate on gay marriage, as evidenced by this banner on CNN. But most right-wing critics did not even bother watching the movie. Despite that, they gleefully went on TV to criticize its very existence.
No, I didn't see the film, and I'm not at all surprised that out of 7 nominations, Brokeback walked away with 4, and some might say that's an indication of what the Oscar ceremonies might look like later on this year.
Why would you comment on it if you haven't seen it?
Well, I'm interested in all of the buzz around the film. I'm not the least bit surprised that we're hearing so much chatter. After all, I think what we're witnessing, Larry, is the homosexualizing of America.
I've not seen the movie, Larry, and that's a matter of decision, not just a matter of chance. Like others, I don't feel any need to see the movie. I have read the screenplay, I know the short story, and of course I know what the movie's about because it's out there so much in the media. That's the main issue. I am not a movie critic. I really can't speak to the cinematography. I can just speak to what the cultural meaning of this film is and why I see it as a great challenge. But, you know, I really am horrified to think about where that story ended. You know, my main concern, Larry, is not with the gospel of heterosexuality, even though I think that's very important. It's with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And what I find lacking in the movie, the screenplay, and in the short story is any resolution that really brings these persons to know why they were created and how God really intends them to live and how they would find their greatest satisfaction in living just as God had intended them for His glory.
Politics, religion, and morality all intertwined to, quote, save America from homosexuals, or in today's context, to, quote, save the children. But in reality, those who seek to ban books are the ones endangering youth. They are the ones who should leave children alone. They should stop denying children new points of views. Children need to learn about experiences they may not be familiar with. They may relate to these POVs or simply broaden their minds to marginalized experiences. But hope is not all lost. Many people fight against these book banners, as we'll see in the next chapter. By the way, if you're still watching, please consider leaving a like and a comment. It means the world to me and it helps a lot. Thank you. Students are on the front line of this fight for their rights to a diverse education. In this clip from the BBC, we're presented with two sides of the book banning debate. We're introduced to a concerned mom whose mission is to ban perverse books from school libraries.
I'm a mother of 3 teenagers. I'm working on helping the school district remove vulgar books from our school libraries.
Opposing her are students who seek to keep these books available for themselves and the next generation.
In high school, students hear every single day about topics of sex or of drugs, anything like that. If they hear about that every single day, but they can't see it from an actual educational perspective, then how are they going to be prepared to be successful in society?
If you're a student watching this video and you're witnessing a bunch of righteous parents attempting to ban books at your school, you're right to be concerned. You are right to stand up for your freedom to read. And you're not alone in the fight. I extensively covered book bans on my channel, and I honestly thought I said it all. I basically moved on. Until I listened to a recent episode of The Journal by the Wall Street Journal. It's titled Inside One Publisher's Fight Against Book Bans. That publisher is Penguin Random House. The podcast episode features an extensive conversation with the publisher's vice president, Skip Dye, who leads the company's effort to fight against book bans in America. First and foremost because it's wrong, but also because their business is being wronged, and therefore they believe they have grounds to sue. After all, thousands of their books were prohibited from schools. The vice president says this is impacting their employees and their authors, and now they're suing states and school districts to fight book bans, namely in Florida and Idaho, after they passed legislation to restrict what children can learn in school. I highly encourage you to listen to this episode after this video, but in short, Penguin Random House says they're not here to impose any ideology, but they are concerned with the trend to ban books in schools. I would not be talking about it again on my channel had it not been for this new development. Skip Dye says that he had conversations with school librarians who expressed feeling pressured to remove books from their libraries, not because they were inappropriate for children, but because they fear retaliation from groups like Moms for Liberty. The publisher has a specially made webpage to address these book bans. On it, you can see which of their books were banned and why. For instance, take their children's book, The Oldest Student. It tells the true story of Mary Walker, an ex-slave who learned to read at 116 years old. Penguin Random House says this book was banned for featuring characters of color or themes of race and racism. This Is Our Time, Persepolis, The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn, The Color Purple, Trevor Noah's book, Malcolm X's autobiography, and Uncle Tom's Cabin were all banned for the same reason. This all happened recently. They also mention a children's book called Families, Families, Families. Goofy animals of all sorts appear in dozens of combinations, demonstrating all kinds of families. It's described as a celebration of family love. And the publisher says it was banned for featuring LGBTQ+ characters or themes. Many more books by queer authors were also banned. And finally, the publisher lists books that were banned for themes of violence, sexual experiences, health, and well-being. These include many classics like Mouse, The Diary of Anne Frank, Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, The Outsiders, The Great Gatsby, The Handmaid's Tale, 1984 and Animal Farm, Frankenstein, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and The Merchant of Venice. In other words, crusaders against books are willing to invoke their racism, homophobia, and bigotry to remove books from schools they feel uncomfortable with. all the while hiding like cowards behind children. I'm super curious to see how these lawsuits will unfold, but no matter what, Penguin Random House joining the growing coalition opposing book bans is a very important step forward.